everybody, welcome to the Healthy Home Healing Network. This is Mary Satoli again, and today I want to talk a little bit about kind of what leads up to cancer diagnosis and stress, and how you deal with it initially when you find out. For me, as I mentioned in my earlier video, I had been put on an anxiety medication that I was withdrawing from for, seems like ever. I got off of everything about 3 years ago, and it was the worst hell journey I've ever been through. I had to quit working, and I lost everything I had. It was just horrific. And I think the stress of that alone, not sleeping, probably didn't realize that I had some residual head trauma issues and PTSD issues from all the blackouts that I had. So people weren't really understanding what I was dealing with at the time. I think a lot of my friends who tried to understand and knew that I was really going through something horrific couldn't quite wrap their heads around it, because I mean, I was ending up in the ER with, staples in my head and all kinds of crazy, bizarre things. I, got some sort of weird infection where I fell face first into the floor and fractured my eye socket bone, your orbit bone. And so there was a lot of things that led up to, and I suspect that maybe I had this for some time prior to actually getting a physical diagnosis of cervical cancer. And so I had rented this little guest house I'm staying in through the help of some friends, because I was only getting $730 a month and still am on disability. And I figured that the end of my journey would be when I got off the drug and had a few months behind it where I had no drugs in my system and I would be better. But that's not how it worked out. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people that seem to be having long-term problems as a result. And still there's no conclusive evidence for how much of my symptoms are TBI related and how many of my symptoms are actually from the drug itself. No one knows, because of course Big Pharma is turning a blind eye to all this, and they own all of the legal system, lawyers. They're writing the laws, and so they don't have to be accountable for any damages. And there's a lot of people that I help through my organization, the Follow Your Bliss Foundation, who are in still pretty shabby shape as a result of these drugs. Now, with that being said, I suspect that a lot of the reason that some of us have had really bad withdrawals from the drug and that are having long-term effects after the withdrawal is due to a lot of them have had head injuries of some sort. And you don't have to have like a blackout like I had, which I've had several that have caused the head injury. That's why I got them, is because I blacked out and hit my head on the floor a couple times, tile floor. And they don't have to be anything like that. You can have mild, head trauma. I knocked my front teeth out on the ice when I was a kid, and I suspect that's where it started. But no one knew about these kinds of things. Again, our health awareness is much greater because of the internet. And like I said in my first video, that it can also make the choices and decisions a little bit more hard to determine what's the right thing to do, because there's so many, in some ways, too many opinions to try to sort through. See if I can get my mouth working. Oh my gosh. So when I came off the medications, I struggled for a really long time. I was sick. I couldn't leave the house hardly at all, and I didn't know what was wrong with me. And a lot of people, the doctors were just clueless. Just you'd go in and they wouldn't even believe that it was possible, when people have peanut allergies and can die from eating peanuts, that you're taking a narcotic like Xanax or Ativan, that it can't do any long-term damage. I mean, seriously. And the reason I started this channel, like I said before, is I want to see an end to Big Pharma controlling all of our healthcare decisions and advertising, so that you all who have little kids can take care of their health while they're still young, and so they're blessed with a really healthy childhood like I had. And I regret the day that I listened to one doctor, honestly, and this is not to replace doctors, because I think there's good doctors out there that mean well. I just think, like I said before, they're stuck in this healthcare system and have to feed themselves, and it's turning the healthcare system into sort of something that's, well, in my case, I feel kind of betrayed because I trusted someone to know what they were giving me, and I wasn't even really advised how to take it. So I went on for months trying to find diet solutions, supplements, exercise, everything I could do. I started by taking a TM course, so I meditate twice a day, I do yoga. I find that the best thing you can do with any sort of health issue is to try to keep yourself grounded, which is not easy to do when you're trying to figure out how to pay the bills, and you really don't have any family or a support system. I have a lot of great friends, but they're not close by where they could be there all the time for me. I had some pick me up from emergency rooms and things like that, but people are busy and they have lives, and it's sometimes hard to get the sort of help you need. So I was down in bed for the last 4 months of that taper. I couldn't exercise. I couldn't barely stare at my computer screen. It was so bad. And so I was able to get myself quite a bit of the ways back. I got back into working out. I got back to writing and playing music again. I'm a career musician. I spent most of my life playing music for a living and writing music. I've won awards. I've done all kinds of great things. I was a live DJ. I had an amazing career with it, but I had to stop when I tried to come off the drugs. I was teaching music and I had to give up all my students. So just saying this as a word of caution before you make a decision to put a pill in your mouth or to do a treatment of any kind, whether it's alternative or Western allopathic medicine. So I spent about a year, the first year, working on my nonprofit. I think it's important to have something creative, something that you'd enjoy doing to stay focused and distract your attention from the internal drama that's going on inside your system when you're coming off of a drug like that, or trying to heal from it, whichever the case may be. So last May, I'd say March, I went on a ketogenic diet, which I know is a big craze and it's all over the YouTube video, but I would be very cautious with that because now in hindsight, I thought I did a lot of research, but I think a lot of times when you're desperate for answers and a cure, like I was in my case, that I did a lot of really impulsive things. I wouldn't say impulsive. I listened to a lot of people and it sounds really believable, and I did feel pretty good when I first went on the diet. But then about 6 weeks into it, I broke out in a rash from head to toe, and it was so bad that I literally was bleeding because I was scratching myself so bad, and my sheets were bloody from just itching in the middle of the night. I couldn't sleep. It was brutal. So I'm cautioning people about a lot of this stuff because I've gone through it, and I don't think you want to try to stay away from things until you have enough long-term information. There isn't enough long-term information other than what I've seen now that it may be good for short-term uses. And I'm not saying for everybody. I know some people that seem to be doing extremely well on it and they swear by it, but I didn't. And it could be because I already had cancer, I don't know. And so when you go on a high-fat diet and you start burning fat, it starts to come out in a detox, some form in your system, and it could have been from the medications and all kinds of stuff that I really don't know. And I'm just sharing this with you because I'm not giving medical advice here. I'm sharing my experience, and just from that alone, just to be cautious about whatever you do, that's all. So I had finally kind of gotten out the rat wheel of being a professional patient, which is generally what they will suck you into with this whole system. I mean, I never went to a doctor when I was younger. I never went to anybody. I mean, I had mono for a while in Epstein-Barr after I took a round of antibiotics. It destroyed my immune system, and it took me quite a while to get over. But I did some alternative stuff, but really the medical system even then was not as well organized and as well advertised as it is now. I mean, it's scary because they will literally get you in to examine every orifice, every body part, every single nerve cell and blood sample in your body, because it is all a huge moneymaker. And when you stop to think about how many people are employed by the healthcare system in this country, it represents a significant part of the workforce that is in place. So you think about how badly it needs to be kept going economically to support what we have built. And so I'd gotten away from going to doctors for quite a while because I got tired of telling them about what I was going through with the drug and none of them believing in me and saying, you're fine, you're fine. I'd go to the emergency room with panic attacks, feeling like I was dying from the withdrawal, and I would be faced with, you're healthy, you're healthy. So I quit going because everybody kept telling me I was healthy. And so I went back to a VA doctor because I had gotten VA medical over the summer, and I had her look at the rash, and they took pictures and sent it to the dermatologist. It was just, they couldn't figure out what it was. They just said, they gave me this big jar of goo. It was this petroleum stuff, and I don't ever usually use stuff like that, but I was so desperate because I tried every type of lotion, apple cider vinegar, everything that anybody neem oil. I had tried it all, and I was going broke trying alternative solutions. So I finally broke down and I tried using this Vaseline stuff, is all I can wait to describe it, all over my body, and it worked for like 2 days. But then the rash came back with a vengeance. It was twice as bad as it was before because it's a topical steroid, and all they will do is destroy your immune system even further. So by that point, I'm laughing because it's just like almost comical what I've been through to a degree. Then I had this really strange spongy look to my skin. It was just very strange what happened. And so I got edema. My ankle swelled up, my fingers, everything was swollen. And went to the emergency room, but I first looked up an herb called cleaver, which I don't necessarily recommend, but it got rid of the edema. And I drank a couple cups before I'd gone to the ER, but my blood pressure had gone way up. I was all swollen, and I didn't know what was wrong. So a friend of mine said, well, you probably should go see a doctor. So they didn't know what it was, but when I got there, it like hit me, and I had to like pee for like 10 minutes straight. This tea made me pee out all the excessive, and it was working. I mean, the edema went down, but I started bleeding vaginally. And at first I thought, because I'd had trouble with fibroids through menopause and that sort of thing, that it was just a trigger because that's one of the side effects it can cause vaginal bleeding. So that's what I thought at first. But I had been scheduled for a routine pap smear at the VA per her visit with the Vaseline incident in, I think, June, July. And by then, I had done some research on YouTube, as I often do, because I try to satisfy my own curiosity again and try to gain knowledge for myself, because I don't take my health for granted after what I went through with this one pill that I took. And I didn't take aspirin. I worked out. I was healthy as could be before I took these drugs, and it destroyed my life, my career, everything. So this is forewarning. And I believe it's the reason I have cancer, because of all the stress I've had in my life on top of it. So I'm sharing this to help arm you, the patient, with knowledge, because they're out to make money off you. That's the bottom line. Even the alternative cancer centers, which I called around There's one in Mexico that I called $27,000 for 2 weeks. I don't know many people that have that sort of discretionary income. I don't even have that kind of income coming in to pay my bills. So I don't know. It's crazy town. The whole thing is crazy town. So I started researching a vegan diet. And I know a lot of you paleo people probably don't want to hear about this, but this is what worked for me. I am not, again, telling anybody how to do this. I'm just telling you my journey. So I went on a vegan diet back in the end of August, and within 2 weeks, the rash almost completely cleared up. So you do the math. I was satisfied because my head started clearing up. I started getting a whole lot better. Well, that was before I got the cancer diagnosis. So I believe that the keto diet probably triggered something off with the high fat, because when I had labs done over the summer, it threw my thyroid off, which I've heard from other people, keto diet will do that. You need carbohydrates for a healthy functioning thyroid. And I already had T3 conversion issues before I had, gone on the keto diet, so I was struggling with converting T3. I'd been on some thyroid stuff on and off, and it just overstimulated my already crazy glutamic acid brain, which I have from the head trauma. So the bottom line is that I had an inflammatory situation after the edema, but since being on a vegan diet, I have not had any reoccurrence of the edema. I was very fortunate, I'm going to give you a plug, Jill, to find Jill Snyder in Florida with a healing center. And she has helped me a great deal with her journey and her book. And the first week I was diagnosed, I think I mentioned in my last video that I spent an entire week reading her book and letting the diagnosis settle in and deciding for myself what was going to be the best route to go. And I think right off the bat, I knew when I thought about surgery or going to an oncologist, I just was absolutely terrified of the idea after what I'd already been through with the drug care system and what I went through with the withdrawal. And not a one of them sat and talked to me about maybe it's the drug, maybe we should try to help you get off this, maybe we should. And they're not invested in getting people off this stuff. They know how to get people on it, but they don't know how to get people off of it, because once, again, like I said, you get into the system, they will have you come back for more and more. I made the mistake of saying yes to a mammogram on top of the pap smear, and I told them when I went in for the mammogram that was going to be it. And then they wanted to do an ultrasound. There was no reason for it. I have dense breast tissue. There was no reason for it. And I've been through this. I quit having mammograms a number of years ago because I had a breast lump back in my, I want to say, early 40s. And I found it. It didn't show up on a mammogram, didn't show up on an ultrasound. I found it. The doctor had to kind of do some feeling around to find it. I had a surgical biopsy done. Fortunately, it was benign back then. But I started having thermography done, which who knows about any of it really. I don't know. It depends on who you talk to, what information, again, what their bias is. Everybody's got a bias with this stuff. So after reading Jill's book, I decided that I wanted to do this as naturally as I could, because I wanted to detox my system from the drugs, and I wanted to get my brain injuries healed. And I felt like if I underwent another surgery, because I've already had major neck surgery, and if I underwent another surgery, then I was going to get more antibiotics. That was going to further deplete my immune system, and it didn't make sense to me, because cancer is a malfunction of the immune system. And I think a combination of stress, which we're all inundated with, which is why our cancer rates are so high in this world, the drugs, all of it. So I'm on a crusade now. I'm going to try to get the golf course that I live on to start using natural fertilizers. You got to use this for a good cause. I mean, and that's what I'm trying to do, is I'm trying to flip this and help other people, empower you so that you're not letting the doctors have all the power, because they don't. Ultimately, the choice is yours. We're all going to die some point or the other. So the choice is, do I want to live healthy, or do I want to live longer and less quality of life, maybe because I'm taking drugs or I'm having surgical procedures that end up destroying your immune system even further. So for those of you who are going through this, I get it. It's a hard journey. It's a hard decision to make. It's something that I really sat with for quite a while before I was sure that I didn't, and I still got doctors calling me and thinking, where were you when I was trying to come off the drugs? And now they're all like, oh, but we're just so concerned. And we get a diagnosis like this, we just, we really want to make sure you have the care you need. And I'm thinking, well, is that another $27,000 that the taxpayers are going to have to pay? Because honestly, already my disability case, because of the one drug I took, between the head traumas and all the other stuff that I went through, and being on disabilities, probably cost the taxpayers about $1 million. And I go into this a lot in my blogs on my nonprofit site, so y'all can read a lot of that stuff at the Follow Your Bliss Foundation. I'm leaving links to Jill Snyder's website and contact information. She's a great coach. She's really been a rock for me and really given me a lot of courage. And again, I like to give credit to people like Chris Beat Cancer, who interviews a lot of people. All your guests have been amazing and really helped me make choices that I think have helped me decide what's best for me. And this may not be the journey that anyone else takes, but for me, it just didn't make sense to pound my already fragile system into the ground further with more drugs when I'd already been through something that no doctor could fix. I'm still suffering from electrical tingling. It's like being plugged into a light socket all the time, tight muscles, muscle function not working right, balance issues, and no one can tell me whether it's the drugs or the head injury, but I've got a doctor who I want to get into his program if I can raise the money to do testing for neuroinflammation, because he believes that the anxiety medication was just masking the symptoms of the head trauma. So just one opinion that I'm considering, but I do know that my journey has been interesting and challenging. So I'm going to leave again the link to my GoFundMe campaign. It's helping me pay for my cancer treatments and keep a roof over my head right now. And you can either donate there or through my nonprofit if you're interested in non-drug-related cures for, or how to manage anxiety and depression through other means. And not saying that sometimes that some medications aren't necessary, but I think that it should be not the first line of defense, which is what we've kind of come through with this healthcare system, is that it is the first thing that they do and not the last. And it should be the other way around. We've got it backwards. So anyway, I'm going to, on that note, I'm going to call it a night here, and I'm going to move on to next week, and I'll leave you another video on this process for me and keep you appraised of what I'm doing and my treatment routine and how that's coming along. And I will see you then. So thanks for watching, and take care, and make good health choices for yourself and your family. It's important not only for your family, but for our whole healthcare system and for the taxpayers who are paying for this mess. Thanks now. Bye.